Yeah, big shout out to Alan and the team here at Cyan Festival, amazing, and to the fantastic talkers from Studio Dunbar, Stan, Anders, Sander, and also Sasha as well, amazing. So I'm going to try and get started. So, am I going to get started? Am I pointing the right way? Yeah, no, it's the other way around. God. This is why I work with pens, because technology doesn't work for me. I travel a lot with work, but also with pleasure. So when I travel, I have this little book which I take with me. It's only about A6 size, and as Alan said, I've been sketching around Split. Split is just stunning. It's cold, and you have this wind called Bora, is that right? Yes. My God, I went to the top of the mountain today. That was the wrong day to do that. But yeah, so I've been sketching my way around Split, and the amazing thing about what I do as an illustrator, as an artist, is when I sit down and I draw, I tend to talk to people. I work on my own. I don't have studios like all these other guys do, so I work on my own. So whenever someone comes within this far of me, I tend to just talk to them, even if they don't want to. So I'm sitting in what's the name of the big palace where, you know where it is, excellent. So I'm sitting there yesterday, and I'm up against the side, and I'm sketching away. And they're doing a bit of filming there. And I'm drawing away, and this guy comes over from the film crew, and we just start chatting. He tells me he's got a hangover and he's taken a tablet. And we're just chatting away. And he goes off, and I carry on drawing. I look up, and they've completely emptied the entire square for the filming. And I'm just sitting there with the directors and the film people here, and I'm thinking, I'm actually on the set with these guys, and I think they think that I was part of the film set. But I just stood there, did my drawing, closed the book, said goodbye, and I left. But that's not why I'm here, no. This is not a random picture of someone, this is a picture of me. And in order to find out how I became an artist, I need to kind of go back to tell you who I am and how I started. So, when I was about 13, 14, I had bright ginger hair. If anyone spoke to me, I'd go bright red, like a tomato. I was a very shy child, and I was really skinny, not like now. And I also wore glasses as well. So, when I was at school, I got bullied quite a lot, because I was almost a Hollywood archetypal victim. I ticked all the boxes. So this is when I was about 13 or 14. My parents, my dad was Maltese, so he came over to the UK in 1948. So technically he was an immigrant. My mum, English, they got married. My mum passed away when I was 3 years old from cancer. So my dad raised me and my sister. So I had quite a tough upbringing. Also the fact that we were quite poor as well. So we didn't have a lot of money to sort of muck around with, if you like. But one of the things that I absolutely got into when I was about 10 or 12 was 2000 AD. And this comic kind of changed my life. Now, this isn't a screen grab. These are my comics that I took a photo of last week. These are from 1981. So I've been collecting these for 3 years previous, from issue 1. And I think looking back at some of the stuff that I do now, looking back as when I was a child, I loved illustration and I loved typography. I didn't realise that at the time. But because I was a child, I didn't realise a lot of things. I didn't know how to I don't know, tie my shoelaces. But that's another story. But so I think this was my first introduction to illustration and type. And what I used to do was, to get away from the bullying and the situation I was in, was I would draw. So I would copy illustrations. I would copy illustrations out of the comics. I would get magazines, and I would just freehand draw with pencils, pens, paints, everything. But I was fascinated by how things work. Now, these are not brilliant pictures because these are photographs. I don't know if anyone knows what a photograph is anymore, because everyone has phones. But I had to rummage through many a box to find these. But I was fascinated by how things were made, how things work. How do you make a rug? I'm going to go to the library and find out. Obviously, I didn't have YouTube or Instagram or any of these people that can teach you how to do things in a split second. We had to go to the library, find the book, write everything down and learn it. So I was constantly learning about how to make things. The Perspex motorbike on the bottom I made when I was 14. That was from a Perspex sheet that my dad had in the shed. And I learned that if you heated bits up, you could bend them. And I've still got this somewhere. So my brain was pretty much like a sponge. I was just soaking everything in. And I think as I've got older, I'm still soaking things in. And it's a bit of a mishmash. So I'm running through my childhood because I will get to some work eventually. So in 1981 I became a mod. So I was into the Jam, the Who, and I was 15 at the time, and I bought my first scooter, which I bought for £15 from someone's back garden. So as soon as I got it, it suddenly became a rolling canvas. I would spray the scooter every 3 months, and then I'd paint a mural on it, and then I'd ride it down with my scooter club down to different scooter rallies all across the country. Then I started messing around in 1985 with t-shirts. So I was hand drawing on t-shirts, went back to the library, found out how to screen print. My dad gave me a picture frame, and I managed to buy a piece of screen printed material, and I started screen printing t-shirts for the first time. But these letters were actually hand cut as well, so this was a piece of paper, hand cut. You'd print with them for about 3 times and then they'd be ruined. Fast forward 2 years, 1987, and that's me in the black and white with the John Ball grey hat on. So we started getting into house music, we started going to a lot of garage raves, we started going into London, and we were kind of members of it was acid house, it was a club called Shoom, but we were absolutely, my little group, my little tribe, we absolutely loved Vivienne Westwood clothes. So we would save up and we would go to World's End and would just don Vivienne Westwood clothes. And while I was screen printing, I got a copy of ID magazine, which was kind of like the cultural reference magazine of the sort of 80s and 90s. And there was a picture of Sarah Stockbridge on the front cover, which I turned into t-shirts. Now, because we were going to World's End a lot, this got picked up by Channel 4, newspapers were interviewing us, and if you look on Getty Images now and you type in Vivienne Westwood, 80s models, I come up, which is a bit weird, but it's my claim to fame. But I've always collected stuff, always. Now I went to university, now I was talking to Stan a couple of days ago, and I said, I haven't known about Studio Dunbar for years and years. Turns out that Stan was born the year I went to university. Now I was 27 when I went to university, and Stan was born the same year. That's a bit fucked up, but never mind. It could be my father, it could be my son. But let's not talk about that. So yeah, I've always, ever since I was a child, I've always collected stuff. I was not into design. When I was 16, everyone in my school, we left school and we got a job. No one went to university, no one went to college. You left school, you went to work, you bought a car, you got drunk. That was basically it. So I'm sure it hasn't changed that much. But I always used to collect stuff because I was fascinated by how things looked. And these are some of the things that I've collected over the years, not many obviously, but memberships to my early clubs. The BEA is actually the airline ticket from my very first flight to Malta when I was 3 months old. And just bits and pieces. And as time went on, when I started getting into clubbing seriously, I used to collect all the flyers. So you'd go to all the gigs, and they would just hand you boxes of flyers, and you just kept them. So I've still got all of this stuff. This is all the stuff that I photographed last week. I just can't let it go for some reason. Turning point. One of the biggest turning points for me. This was 1990. Now I went to university in 1993. So I didn't even plan on being a designer. Didn't know what a designer was. But I used to get these catalogues. And these catalogues were made in 1990 by an agency called Why Not Associates. And the catalogues were for Next clothing. I don't know if you know Next here, but they're kind of like, I don't know, like your dad would wear. It's a bit weird. You wouldn't normally buy a suit from there, but I think I bought my first suit from there because when you had interviews, you had to wear a suit back in the day. But this absolutely blew my mind. I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand what they were doing. This was like nothing else I'd ever seen. So every time the catalogue came out, I would buy it, and not for the clothing. I'd rip all the pages out with the clothing in, and I'd just keep all the ones with the design on. So this was my introduction to design, and so I became a graphic designer. I went to university when I was 27, 1993. I studied graphic design and moved to London, and I worked for 2 different agencies full-time, and for about 5 years. And then I left. I just thought, I don't want to work for an agency, I want to go freelance. So I freelanced as a graphic designer for about 14 years. And it got to the stage where, I think I was a good graphic designer, so I got to the stage where I was a creative director, and I was overseeing projects for Coca-Cola, Volvo, and just loads of projects, and I was constantly in work as well. But I couldn't see myself being a graphic designer for my entire life. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I can't remember what the next slide is, so I'm going to go on. Yeah, so whilst I was doing graphic design, I kind of introduced myself, because my brain is a sponge, to digital illustration. Now, here's a question. There's very young people. Does anyone remember Macromedia Freehand? Yes. Whoa, come on. We got some real designers in the place. Macromedia Freehand was Macromedia Quark Express. Freehand was pretty much the better equivalent to Adobe Illustrator and InDesign. I shouldn't say that because I use them all the time, but Freehand was by far the better of Adobe Illustrator in comparison. So I used to draw everything in freehand, and I loved it, but because I was kind of at that level where I was in charge of projects, I was designing all these projects, in charge of everything, and then kind of dropping illustration in, digital illustration. And the clients loved it, which was amazing. It was great for me because I was being paid as a freelance graphic designer, and then I was kind of charging a little bit of cash for doing illustration as well. But I think the turning point came, it's probably going to buzz ahead, I was freelancing for an agency called, Grey, I think it was. It was precursor to Grey. And this project came in for Team P&G, which was Team Procter & Gamble. And it was a dry project. It was to do their annual report. And nobody wanted to do it. And I said, look, I'll do it, but as long as I get a bit of free rein on it. And they were like, yeah, you can just go ahead and do it. Now, Procter & Gamble basically do makeup, perfumes, all that sort of stuff. They advertised in all the magazines. So I decided to do that annual report as a magazine. So I laid everything out, artworked everything. But I also started messing around with typography, design, illustration, decoration, and they loved it. They absolutely loved it. And they were owned by WPP as well. So I ended up doing the annual report for WPP as well, which they then absolutely loved. But this was my introduction to, I guess, playing about with typography and illustration and design. But I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. And then, one day, so my talk is called One Day, and there's a reason for that. The reason why it's called One Day is because we always have this thing where we say, one day I'll learn to play the guitar, one day I'll bake the perfect loaf, one day I'll travel the world, one day, one day, one day. And that one day very rarely happens. My dad, because we were quite poor, we used to do this thing in the UK it was called the football pause. I might have to try and explain. So basically, once a week, pretty much everyone in the UK, you'd bet on the football scores to see if you could guess what the football scores were. And it's kind of like the lottery. You'd guess what the games were going to be played, and if you guessed correctly, you could win a lot of money. So everyone used to do it. It was not an expensive thing, but it was kind of it's a very British thing. So my dad won one year. It was like the late 70s. But he always had this dream. He always said, one day I'm going to buy an MG BGT sports car. One day. All of a sudden, this day came. He won £2,000 in the 70s, which was more than enough. And my dad put the money in the bank because he was scared that we might not have enough money. But he didn't have that money to begin with. He was given it. So he had an opportunity to buy his dream car and he never did. So I always remember this. And I thought, well, what happens if my one day becomes 2 day? What happens if everything I talk about, suddenly I just go ahead and do? So my 2 day happened when I was 42. Yeah, spring chicken, I don't think so. Maybe 24 would have been better, but 42. Yeah, it depends which way you look at it. So yeah, I was 42. Now, does anyone know The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Good. Good audience in here tonight. So as you'll know, 42 is the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe and everything. I chose a good year for my today to happen. Now the question, does anyone know what these are? Yes, they're pens. I'm just going to help you out. They're called pens. They're like magic wands. You basically take the lid off, you put them on a thing called paper, and lines happen. So I found these things called pens. So for 20 odd years, I've been using a computer, I've been using a Mac, and I decided to swap digital for digits. And there's a story attached to that, that's why, but I won't go into it. I decided to draw my local area. I was sitting in a cafe where I live in East Dulwich. I lived in East Dulwich in London. And I was sitting there and I thought, well, wouldn't it be great to draw all of the streets, all of the businesses in this local high street with a little bit of history. So I did. I photographed each of the businesses. I went home and I freehand illustrated everything. And I got a friend to print 50 of them. And I put them on a local thing called the East Dulwich Forum. And I thought, if I sell 10, I'll sell them at £35 each. If I sell 10, I'll make 350 quid. That's fine. I'm still working as a full-time graphic designer. So we put them on, limited edition print, £35, local area, launch of name. Within seconds, my email was just pinging constantly, ping, 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 ping. I ended up selling around 250 in a week, and I had a little Renault Clio. So, and this was a little bit before everyone started using, websites, and they would build their own websites as a shop. So what I was doing was I was loading the car up with prints, and I was driving all around South London, and I was dropping the prints off, and then people were giving me money. So technically I was a South London dealer, but I was an art dealer, and my glove box was stuffed full of cash for like a month. And I thought, there's something in this. So I took a lesson in how to screen print, because obviously what I learned when I was a child didn't make sense anymore. So I cut out the middleman. As an artist, you try and cut out as many people as you can who make money out of you, so that you can have more for yourself. So I learned how to screen print, and the maps just grew. It just grew and grew and grew. So I ended up doing the whole of London. I had collectors from all over the world, Australia, New Zealand, Dubai, Sweden. People were buying 2, 3 at a time. This was about 14 years ago, and I still get people writing to me now saying, have you got any of these prints? And I'm like, they sold out 10 years ago, so no, they're highly collectible items. And it got to the stage where I thought, do I still work as a graphic designer? And I thought, I don't know if I can. I was doing shows at the weekends, I was doing pop-ups as well with friends, as well as doing graphic design. So I was doing probably 70 to 80 hour weeks, full-time, working evenings, working weekends. And I just thought, I can't sustain this anymore. So I decided to quit graphics, and I thought, well, I need to have a go. This is the other thing that a lot of people get confused by. We have this belief mechanism that we need lots of money. So when you're a designer, when you work, you kind of go, okay, I'm earning 40,000 euros now. If I leave, I want to be earning 50,000 euros. I want to be earning 60. And it goes on and on and on. Now, I had a moment where I thought, how much do I really need to live on? When I break it down, I had a mortgage, I had bills, but when it broke down, it was about £12,000 a year. But I was constantly striving for the £50,000, £60,000 a year. And I thought, I don't need that much money. That's going to pay my bills, it's going to pay for holidays, and I can go out, and it's enough. It won't be as much as I need, but it's enough. So that was a realisation. My first commission came in, which was for the Zeta Hotel Group, because Mark Sainsbury, who runs Zeta, bought my print and said, we're opening a new townhouse, can you do that for us? So I said, yeah, I'd love to. This is the other thing as well, this is the other thing I do, is I look at my clients and I see what they've got, and then I say, this is how much it will cost, and they'll go, okay, and then they'll go, can we negotiate? And I'll go, yeah, sure, you've got a nice hotel, how about 2 nights in your hotel as well as the money? And they'll go, yeah, that's great, it doesn't cost us anything. So I ended up staying in the penthouse apartment at the townhouse, which I cheekily took my now wife to for her 40th birthday. So, you know, kudos. And then I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to take myself seriously, I need a studio, because that's what you do, isn't it? I need a studio. 3 months later, moved into my studio, and this is my view from my studio. This was my view from my studio. I'd actually moved into my own piece of art. How mad is that? That's the Zeta Hotel opposite my studio, almost an identical positioning. It was crazy. So yeah, I do murals, as you've seen. How did I get into murals? A friend of mine was doing an opening night. This was maybe 12 years ago. She sold products. She has a place in Dalston in East London. And she said, look, do you want to come along and draw on the outside of the wall in chalk? The next day the council will wash it off the wall. So I was like, yeah, fine. I had some beers and I just stood outside. It was a nice summer's evening, just chatting and drawing on the wall. And I loved it. It was good fun. And one of the girls that was there, a girl called Claire, who was a friend of this particular lady, saw my work, came over and said, look, do you do murals? I'm like, yes. No, yes, maybe. And she said, we've got this particular job that I'm working on with an architect, and we're looking for someone to paint some walls. So I said, yeah, cool, okay. So I'd gone from painting someone's wall outside their shop to now looking at thousands of metres of wall space in a multi-million-pound architectural build. And I did not know what the fuck I was doing. But I'd already said yes. So, yeah, that's where I ended up. And I ended up doing these murals. I ended up doing 5 murals for this company. And I loved it. I remember standing in front of the one on the left, where it says flyer, and this was the first one. And I just stood there with my pens whilst people were walking all around me. And I was just thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm here. And then as soon as the ink hit the wall, it was almost like this magical wizard moment hit me, and I thought, I know what I want to do for the rest of my life. And it was amazing. But I didn't know what else to do with myself, and I thought, now what do I do? I've got 5 murals that I've painted for this one company. Instagram was in its early days. It was before Facebook had come along and destroyed it with some advertising, whatever it is now. But it was early days, and people were just throwing stuff up on there. And I thought, now what do? I can go into an art show. I can join, you know, the many artists out there. But I thought, well, this isn't what I want to do. I don't want to sell canvases. I don't want to be an artist. I need something else. In London we had, it's long gone now, there was a design show called Design Junction. So Design Junction was the biggest show in London. It was for architects, interior designers, planners, all 3D. And I thought, I need to think laterally as opposed to literally. Where do I want to be? What do I want to do? I'm a muralist. I paint murals, or I want to paint murals inside office spaces, agencies. So where better to be seen than at a show dedicated to architects, interior designers. So I wrote dropped a line to Michael, who was in charge of Design Junction, and I said, look, I've done these 5 murals. I can come along and do a mural for you, no charge. And I just thought, there's no way he's going to say yes, because it costs between £5,000 and £20,000 to show there. And he turned around and said, yes, we've got the perfect space for you. And he gave me a 14-metre wall in Design Junction in the cafe. Now this was like gold dust. This was like, I couldn't have hoped for a better place to be. So I'm there 5 days. It was free. I didn't pay. He didn't charge. I didn't get charged. And I just rocked up every day and I painted each of the days that the coffee people would be there. I dedicated one section to them. So I was there painting all these murals. From this one project, from this one 5-day freebie, I won 8 projects with all sorts of people, from architects and interior designers. It's cold in here, this is ridiculous. So yeah, I ended up working with Design Junction for the next 3 years. So I'd just rock up, they'd give me a wall, I'd paint it, and then I'd win 3 to 6 projects a year. So I was thinking, no artist at that time was doing any design shows. Nobody was doing any live art. I was the only one doing it. I had no competition. It was pretty much just me rocking up, doing what I wanted, which was insane. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the process, and then I'll tell you about one of the clients that I met at Design Junction. So the process will go like this. I'll either get one of 2 briefs. I'll either get a brief that does this, we love what you do, can you do it for us? And that's pretty much the brief, which is pretty loose. Or I'll get like, War and Peace, and it'll be like all this stuff that's written down. And I have to go through it and I have to work out what the client wants. Now the thing about the murals that I do is they're very typographic, they're very storytelling. Going over to Sasha over here, storytelling is very important, always. But one of the things I do is I try and find out who the client is, and I try and find out what the stories are that they have that nobody else knows about. And a lot of the time, there's just the most ridiculous things. So in a lot of the murals that I do, I have these ridiculous illustrations that I put in with no explanation. And what this does is they have their clients come in, or they have visitors, they'll see a picture on the wall as part of this mural, and it becomes a talking point. So it becomes a story that they can tell to their clients, and it humanises the company, because a lot of the time you're only dealing with people that are giving you kind of blurb and just guff, basically. So every mural I do, every project, is a stack of research. It's not just a case of just going up and painting something on a wall. I can spend months doing research, getting stories, finding the right tone of voice, and kind of doing something that the client wants as an individual client, basically. So one of the clients that I had that I won from Design Junction was Virgin Atlantic. So this was a nuts project. They contacted me and said, we saw you 2 years ago at Design Junction. This is the other thing as well. I'm a slow burner. Everyone wants everything now. I kind of think, if someone sees me now, they might contact me in a year or 2 or 3 or 5, but I'm always somewhere in their radar. So Virgin contacted me and said, look, we've got this project. We saw you at Design Junction. It's a new clubhouse that we're opening. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, sure, where is it? And they said, oh, it's Los Angeles. And I was like, yeah, no, that sounds okay. I think I'm free. And they said, we didn't tell you when it was. And I said, it doesn't matter, I think I'm free. So what they did was they said, we want you to obviously experience Virgin Atlantic, so we're going to send you over to LA for a 3-day fun, recce holiday, find out what it's like. But obviously we'll send you upper class as well. So I managed to wangle my partner, Helen, and I said, oh, can I bring my partner with me as well? My partner gets a lot out of our relationship, as you can see. She stayed in some of the best hotels, thanks to my clients, and me, obviously. So yeah, we went on this 3-day kind of recce. And when I travel, I don't just write notes. I kind of do these things called travel diaries. So this is the moment we left Peckham in London, flew to LA, every single place we went, all the people we met, the stories, how much things cost, the experiences, and then right to the end when we flew back from LA back to London. So this was my research. So I started doing the sketches. I did the first sketch, and I thought, okay, I'll just roughly throw something down, send it over to the client. I said, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking from London to LA, so with love from Lola, London to LA. And I thought, I'll just wait for them to come back and give me loads of feedback and tell me they don't like it. And they saw it and they went, yeah, we love it, we love it. I'm like, yeah, but there's nothing on it. There's no words. And they said, yeah, we love it, it's just great. And I thought, okay, this is too easy. No, it's never this easy. So I ended up doing another one. So I did another one with a bit more information on. And I thought, well, now that they can read it, then they can dissect it, and then they can say, that's wrong, I like that, but we don't want that. No, they turned around and said, yeah, we love it. I'm like, this client is generous and very easy. So obviously, I did another one, making my life harder and harder. But again, I showed them this, and they said, guess what they said? Yeah, we love it. So this is what they got. So I went over to LA. I did the 3 days, recce, fun, great time. Then they flew me over a couple of months afterwards, and I painted the mural, hung out with them, and then 2 weeks later, they sent me out for one night, upper class, for the opening night party, and then they flew me home again. So these are kind of like dream clients. These are like your fun clients. And I've done a few since then. This is probably about 20% of the murals that I've actually done. There's so much, honestly. And I love every single one, because every single one is completely different, which is amazing. There's this thing, if you're not scared, you're not living. I'm guessing everyone here has at some stage seen a horror movie. Wow, deathly silence. Okay, so you all watch rom-coms, yeah? Yeah, not what I expected. So everyone's probably seen a horror movie. Most of you have probably been on a roller coaster at some stage. Why? Why do you do that? You want to do that because you want your adrenaline to be pumped up. You want to feel scared. You want to lose yourself. You want to forget about life, and you just want to, for want of a better phrase, shit yourself. And that's absolutely fine. And for me, this is the way I kind of live as well. If you're not scared, you're not living. If I'm not scared doing a mural, I'm not living. So every mural, every job comes in, and I'm kind of petrified. But one of the things I do is I say yes to everything. And then I panic. And this is the thing that keeps me buzzing. It's kind of like, I had a job come in the day before I left. The day before I left, from a huge hotel brand. They said, look, we've got this project, we need it ASAP. And I was like, when you say ASAP, when? And they said, by this afternoon. So I was like, yeah, I can do that. So I just thought, I don't know if I can do it, but I'm going to do it. And I did. And that's the one thing. So I'm going to give you a few examples. So I did a job for UK TV and BBC studios. They were having their studios refurbed. And they said, we've got this staircase. I get plans sent to me. Plans, I'm supposed to work with plans. No disrespect to any architects here, but I'm a fucking artist. And plans are just flat pieces of things on paper. So I've been apart from the three-dimensional ones, obviously. So I was sent this, and it was like, okay, we've got a staircase, it's two sides, wrap around the top, turned out to be about 70 metres, all in all. This is a photograph of it, so it's the staircase going up, and then it goes up on the other side, and then it wraps all the way around the top as well. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And I thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I had to work something out. And we kind of talked about the words and what they wanted. So I had a basic overview of what they wanted to say. But the trouble is with a project like this is I don't know how it's going to work because it's not a flat, square wall. It's angled and turned and curved. So I don't know how it's going to work until I start. So just to put things into perspective, this is me, obviously in summer, not now, good grief. And that's a pen. We've talked about pens before. This is a different pen. This is a pen that you draw on walls with. So this is a pen, this is me in a flower bed looking at the same pen. So that's what I draw these murals with, a pen. And it's all freehand. So I'm just going to hopefully show you. So there you go. That's a little bit of drawing on some of the things. I should also say, I'm also a bit of a control freak as well. I do all the filming myself, the editing, and I do all the music myself as well. I'm not very good at letting anything go, unfortunately, and I've still got that sponge somewhere inside my brain soaking shit up. So let's talk about some other shit. Let's talk about the most annoying things, which are the Mission Impossible missions. Obviously this isn't me, but just to point a few things out. This is the client offering me their hand, and this is me technically hanging off the end of a helicopter. So yeah, Mission Impossible mission. I got a call from McLaren's. McLaren called me. They called me up and said, "Hi, it's McLaren's." I said, "Yes." They said, "What do you mean, yes?" I said, "Whatever you're going to ask me, yes." And they said, you don't know what we're going to ask you." I said, are you going to ask me to draw on a car?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "Is it a supercar?" And they said, "No." And I said, "Shit." And they said, "Well, technically it's a supercar. It's our introduction into extreme e-racing. So we have this car, and we'd like you to draw on it for the launch of us going into extreme e-racing." Now, again, I've sent the plans, which is supposed to be a representation of the car. So I'm kind of thinking, what the hell? I don't know how this is going to work, but okay, I've got a basic idea. So, putting things into perspective again. That's me next to the car. The car was freaking massive, honestly. Now, I went down to the headquarters of McLaren's in Woking. They have hundreds of F1 cars. It's enormous. It's like the baddest James Bond villain you could ever meet living in this place. It's insane. But they said when they got this car, when this car arrived, they didn't realise how big it was. Now, you've got to remember that they're dragging F1 cars through this space. They said when this car arrived, They had 4 centimetres on each side of the tyre to get it through into the space that I was painting in. So it was that big. So I said, yeah, okay. So I turned up on the Monday, and they said, okay, you've got 2 weeks to do this project. That's what they initially told me. I'd seen the car for the first time on the Monday, and then, Mission Impossible, they said, by the way, we need to photograph it on Thursday. So I was like, hang on a minute, you want me to paint this entire car in ink without making any mistakes in 3.5 days? And they went, yeah, is that okay? And I was like, yeah, fine. So I did it. It was completely covered. Because it was a papaya vinyl, any ink that went on stayed on. It would not, you couldn't wash it off, you couldn't remove it, so I couldn't make any mistakes whatsoever. But it was great, because I think that's the one thing as well. Doing the jobs that I did, and I think a lot of people here as well, we think we have limitations as to what we can do, but we don't know what limitations are until we're pushed. And a lot of people will say, oh, I don't want to try that because I'll fail. You've already failed by not trying it. So if you try it, all you can do is say, I'm not very good at it, but I had a go. And you're not a failure. I don't remember what else I'm going to talk about. So reality, let's talk about the reality of life. I work for myself. I don't have an agent. I don't pitch. I don't send my work out. I basically just get clients come to me. I just sit at home and wait. And in 2019, I had roughly 160 inquiries. So I was getting between 3 and 10 inquiries a week for projects. And that could be from designing a t-shirt to doing a mural, I don't know, 20 metres long. So loads of inquiries. 2019, I got 7 of those jobs. So I had 160 inquiries and I did 7 projects. So that's less than 5%. Now, what I used to do was I'd send emails out with like these, elongated projects and proposals, just reams of stuff. But invariably, this would happen. I'd send my quote, and then I wouldn't hear anything back. So I just stopped. I just stopped sending out big proposals. I would just send an email just saying, this is how much it's going to cost. And if you want to talk, let's talk. And it kind of cut out a lot of the crap that I had to deal with. And it also taught me a lot that I don't need to waste time with people who are wasting my time as well. And it's a good business philosophy, because there's a lot of people out there that talk the talk but don't walk the walk. Those 7 projects that I did were amazing. They're some of my proudest projects. University of Kent, the Alan Turing mural, which I'm going to show you later. Fortune 500 companies. I did a West End show, and Juliet, which is now in New York, Sydney, and is opening in Germany. So my work has just gone worldwide. The other thing I should say is, before I start a project, I always have a contract. I always have a contract, and I always have a license. So I license my work out. I don't do a piece of work and then give it to a client. I do a piece of work and say, this is where you can use it and how you can use it, and this is how much it's going to cost. And if you want to use it in another way, it's going to cost you more. So the West End show and Juliet has been, let's say, very beneficial for me to draw up a contract and a license agreement with them. And it's a lot of the time, a lot of creatives don't realise that this is so important before they do a project. When I'm not doing client work, I'm just mucking around. A few weeks ago, we had a store, John Lewis, in the UK, and they were selling off skateboards for like 20 quid. So I bought 4, for no reason apart from I just wanted to draw on them. I find crash helmets on the street, and then I take them home and draw on them. I just paint, I just ink, for no reason. I just enjoy my life, basically. And sometimes you do stuff which kind of just happen. So I had this old bike, which I bought second-hand. I sprayed white, and I drew all over it, just because it's kind of what I do. And there's a company called Brompton Bicycles. They do fold-up bicycles, and the creative director, so I went to see my partner who's got a studio. I left my bike outside. The creative director was seeing his wife next door, saw my bike, came in to see me and said, "I'm the creative director for Brompton Bicycles, love your bike, do you want to do something for us?" So I ended up hand drawing 2 Bromptons for their Brompton World Championships. And these went down so well that they then asked me to do a limited edition 500 bikes with a print and a bag to match. And this was just me drawing on a bike and someone else seeing it. And then we just did this crazy project. So all these bikes sold out in 3 days. They were allocated around the world in 3 days. They're about $2.5 grand each. So that was purely by accident. And then I think about a month ago, I did my second bike, which was for Ribble Bikes. And again, this was a whirlwind. Someone contacted me and said, "We've got this bike show coming up. Do you want to draw on one of our bikes?" So I was like, "Yeah, cool, send it over." Of course, they sent it over as a frame, painted pink, and I was like, I had no idea how I'm going to do this, but it went down really well. It's got them loads of marketing coverage around the world. So the other thing that I do is, because I'm a muralist, I see the big picture. I see a bigger picture. And like I told you before, it's not always about the here and now, it's about the future. So you've all heard of the Tate, I'm hoping. Wow, okay. So the Tate's, it's like the Tate Modern, Tate of Britain. It's like a very famous, what is it? Museum, yeah. Thank you. Even I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. So it's like a very famous museum. They got in contact with me and said, "Look, we love your work. We'd like you to draw a poster for our shop that kind of celebrates London." And I said, "Yeah, it sounds cool." And I said, "What's your budget?" And they said £250. Normally I would just be like, swear word, fill in the gaps. And I just thought, well, I was quiet. I thought it's a Tate Modern, could be fun to do. So I said, yeah, fine, okay. So I did this print of London. They gave me complete freedom. They didn't have any involvement. They just said, as long as the Tate Modern is in there, you can do whatever you want. So I did this. This launched on a Wednesday. They sold out by Friday, and it just kept happening week after week. They were ordering, they would sell out. So they said, this is the biggest selling poster we've ever had. Do you want to do some more products? So I ended up doing a whole range of products for the Tate, and I have a dedicated stand at the Tate now, which is crazy. But they're really nice products as well. So here's the killer. So I have a license. So the license states that I get 5% commission on sales. So I don't have to do anything. I don't have to make anything else. They just pay me every time they sell, which is a considerable amount. Plus, I also have a permanent exhibition at the Tate for the next 8 years. I never tell people that they're in the shop. I just say, you can see my work at the Tate. And they say, how long is the exhibition on for? I'm like, 8 years. You know, even Hockney doesn't get that. So life's obstacles, this is kind of close to the end. Life's obstacles, obviously 2020 happened. 2 things happened in 2020 that could have scuppered my life. The first thing was that everyone decided they wanted to be an artist. That's right, mum, dad, brothers, everyone was weaving with pasta. Everyone was buying stuff from Hobbycraft and painting and considering themselves an artist. And they still do. And the second one was obviously COVID. So COVID put a real scupper on my life and everyone else's life. And I lost all my projects, I lost all my work. And I thought, I don't know what to do. So I did this thing called the Storytelling Project. And I met out with some friends. This was in March 2020, and we were sitting down chatting. And this was when everyone, all the adults were, it was just the flu. We didn't know what the full extent of this virus was going to be. But they said that their children were really suffering. All their kids were coming home saying, I've heard about this virus, I think I've got COVID. So I did these things, and obviously with my travelling, my illustrated diaries, I did a little 7-minute video, which you can still see on YouTube. I look much younger, obviously, and longer hair as well. And it's basically just to say, look, if you're struggling, why don't you just stop and illustrate what's happening in your life now with being at home and COVID and stuff like that, and it'll help you slow down and understand what's happening, because the news was just continuous, and it was just it was to help basically people just to slow down a little bit. And I thought, well, I can't just say that and not do it myself. So I kind of started doing my own diary. So every day I would illustrate pages in a book, and I was reading stories from all over the world. And it was kind of leading me into a bit of a kind of rabbit hole of stories. So I was going deeper and deeper, and I was drawing things and illustrating things that were funny, but also really incredibly sad, but everything that happened during 2020. So I had this book, and I stuck it on LinkedIn. It was a little video just saying, oh, I'm a bit messed up with what's happening, so I'm just doing this diary. And it just went viral. There were thousands of people writing to me saying, this is happening to us, this is my life, you have to publish this. And I'm like, this is my diary. That's like asking a 15-year-old to publish their thoughts for the world to see. But I thought, well, I don't have any other work. And I thought, well, I'm just going to do this and see what happens. So I did. I continued for the whole of 2020. New stories, I illustrated everything. I self-published, I self-funded, and I had like 2,500 books I ordered. And I did a pre-order on social media, and just said, look, if anyone wants to order this book, because I need to know how many to actually order, you can pre-order here. And they weren't cheap, because they were artist's edition. And I sold 2,000 books in 6 weeks, which was crazy. And then the books arrived, 6 tons of books at my house, and I sold the rest. So I sold out within 8 weeks 2,500 books, which was crazy. The book ended up winning the most prestigious awards at different categories around the world, which was also nuts for illustration, typography, storytelling during COVID. The book kind of went a bit viral, and then madly the book was then featured in school curriculums in the UK, the USA, and various places throughout Europe as well. So I was getting all these amazing pictures from school kids who were doing their own stories, and their teachers were sending their work to me. And it was crazy. I felt so proud. But here's the thing. I didn't think to myself, I just want to make money out of this, because it just felt like a bit of a dirty thing to do. So I decided to donate £7,500 to Fair Share, which is a food charity in the UK. So that ended up buying 30,000 meals for people that were underprivileged or in need at the time. And I also gave a book to all of the workers that were working during that period as well. And all of these people are now my friends. So I see them once a week or a couple of times a week, and I know them and we chat, and it's been amazing. But obviously we were in lockdown, and I thought, well, I can't do a book launch because nowhere's open. Now my wife could see that I was getting a little bit angsty, because I hadn't done any work painting murals. So she said, look, you can do the downstairs toilet if you want. So that was her, that was her thing. She was like, you can do the smallest house in the room and you can paint it. So I spent 2 weeks painting the downstairs toilet, tattooed it from the floor to ceiling. And I thought, well, where better place to do a book launch than the downstairs toilet? So I went to Instagram Live. I put a post up saying I'm doing the book launch at 8 o'clock, Instagram Live. I put a little bit of a suit on, a bit of a whistle, and I sat on the toilet talking to a screen, hoping someone was going to turn up. And there were hundreds of people that turned up. So I'm just there with a glass of champagne being filled up by my wife, just kept popping into the toilet door and topping my champagne glass up while I'm on the toilet, drinking and talking to a screen for an hour and a half. What better place to do it? Brilliant quote by Alan Turing. Sometimes it's the people no one imagines anything of who do things that no one can imagine. I was poor, I was bullied, I didn't have the best upbringing, but I knew I had something and I didn't know what that something was. I was 42 years old when I decided to change my life. And I just want to let you know that 42 years old, you're only halfway through your working life. So if you think about it, you go to university, you finish when you're 20, 21, coming up when you're 22, you've been working for 20 years, you've still got another 20 to 30 years ahead of you. So if you think you want to do everything now, just slow down, enjoy life, travel, have fun, make yourself have shitloads of experiences, and then worry about getting old, because you've got your entire life ahead of you. Cheers, I'm Vic Lee.
Questions? Does anyone have a question? Oh, great.
We just have this.
You drink like it.
It's simple. It's simple. Did you do any tattoo for somebody?
No, I get asked to do tattoos all the time. I have this thing, which I don't have any tattoos, but I don't do anything I can't paint over. That's it, basically. Plus, tattoos are just personal and they take forever to design, so I can't be bothered. It takes me a week to do a mural. It would take me a month to do a tattoo.
Another one? Here, no? No? Okay. Well, thank you, Vic.
Thank you, everyone.